Every defeat is a crisis if you're the Manchester United manager, and he's had plenty in his short period in time. Is there a danger that everybody, we know the headlines are going to be tomorrow, are going to overreact to this?
No, we're just giving our opinions of what we've seen. He said there he's not too angry, he's happy with the effort. But they've lost 3-0 in a derby game. He should be fuming. He should be raging. And he's an emotional guy, but when he's talking about the effort of the players, but you got to, I think their decision-making, he's talking about moments, but football games are decided by moments. But there always seems to be moments of the opposition and United at this moment in time, and I'm including teams like Grimsby, by the way. So he should be raging. And I like managerial emotion, but I like my manager to show his anger as well. I just couldn't imagine being in a dressing room after losing a derby game 3-0 and everyone going, yeah, do we all try? Yeah. You've got to bring quality. Your decision-making. He's on about people not being aggressive, not out of possession when the goals go in. That's when you have to be aggressive. It's called smelling danger when you're a footballer. And we can criticise the system, but is he got to bring Luke Shaw out in the training pitch and tell him how to get down low and defend properly? That's not his job either, to be fair. But obviously the pressure will be building. They've got Chelsea next week. It's not going to get any easier for this team. And he said he's building something. But while you're building something or you're on a project, you've got to win the odd football match, and they're not winning enough games. So the pressure will just build and build over the next few months. Is
it becoming harder for yourself, for Manchester United fans, to be optimistic about the direction of travel under Ruben Amorim?
Look, I think maybe it's because Louis van Gaal and Jose Mourinho are sort of like huge, massive personalities in the world of football, and when they came into an interview after the game, they were very spiky at times, so it almost brought anger out maybe in this studio. I don't think there's any anger in this studio at this moment in time, and I don't think there's no ill will towards any manager, but certainly towards Ruben Amorim. I think we all want him to do really well. But there are patterns emerging, and there'll be no Manchester United fan that exists that isn't worried at this moment in time about what's going to happen in this next month. And the one thing I would say about the system, and I'm not going to get bogged down on 3 at the back, 5 at the back, 4 at the back, but when he talks about the 2 in midfield, and Patrick, I thought, asked him 2 really good questions there about the 2 in midfield. I think it's about who the 2 players are, number 1, which obviously United haven't got the right 2 in there, whether that's Casemiro, Gatti, Manu or Fernandes.
He doesn't have any players that fit this system.
No, he hasn't got the right 4 in there, so that's a big problem for him. So then you would ordinarily say a manager has to adapt until he gets the right players into the club. He's not been able to do it in this first wave of transfers.
But whose decision would that have been, Gary?
No,
because they spent all the money at the top of the pitch, didn't they?
No, but I think they need to fix the top of the pitch. I don't disagree with that, but they spent 200-odd million. We were all surprised United had that much money. But just coming back to the 2 in midfield, there is a pattern. It is a problem. So I know that he said it's not a problem in there because he's got 3 at the back and he's got the 3 in front. He said he mentioned Abermo, Sesko and Diallo. I know exactly what he means, but it is a problem. And it's happening in a lot of the games that Manchester United are playing. They start off really compact, where all players, the 10 players, are connected together. The 5 at the back, the 2 in midfield are really close to that 5, and then the 3 in front are cuddling that 2. So they're really protected. But what happens is if the game becomes a little stretched, and it usually happens when Manchester United concede a goal. It happened against Burnley, it happened against Fulham, it happened against, not necessarily against Arsenal, but it happened against Burnley, Fulham, it happened against here today against Manchester City. When Manchester United go a goal down and those 3 start to be a bit more risk-taking, a bit more expressive, and they start to stretch a little bit, that 2 then look wide open. And you can't deny that. So, yeah, I get what he means by the fact when they're all compact, but there is a problem that's emerging that if United have a difficulty in a game and those 2 end up left in there on their own, there are none of them that are good enough to defend that space, though. None of them have got the legs. You'd need Caicedo and Vieira. You'd need Keane and
that's where they get
Gerrard. You'd need
that's why they get found out against decent opposition. They can get away against Burnley or draw at Fulham, but against the really good teams, the midfield battle, if you're losing that battle against the good teams, ultimately you're going to lose football matches.
It's going to work,
why did Pep bring Doku off the line today into a position I've never seen him bring him into? Because Manchester United play 2 in there.
It's too flat, it's too rigid, and it's hard to, when you watch this system, we've seen Amorim for what, over 6 months now in the Premier League. It's hard to fit. Gary's just alluded to Premier League footballers played centre midfield, right? It's hard to understand what profile of player plays that role, because I hear people speaking about, oh, they need legs. Okay, well, if you need legs, you've got Ugarte, but he's not very good on the ball. And then you've got Fernandes, who plays in that role because he's creative and he can see that forward pass, almost because he knows he wants to receive that type of forward pass himself. So he's sort of compromising. Casemiro often plays. Then you've got a player in Kobbie Mainoo who in my opinion, is sort of a blend. He's good. He's better on the ball than Ugarte, and he can move around the pitch. And all I hear is, we need dynamism in that midfield, but there isn't any dynamism in that midfield. And also, if they are going to play in front of a back three where you've got 3 centre-backs, the 5 you used the word there, cuddle. You have to be protective of that area, and that is your shape when you're attacking. But they seem so open when when they're beaten on transitions and things like that, and the centre-backs get drawn out too easily. And it's hard to actually find the profile of player that fits the system, not just in that midfield role, but in other areas of the pitch.
You've played in a 3 at the back. You've played in 4. You've played for whatever system. If you was out there tonight, it's very difficult for you to do your job in that system, because you're forever thinking about when you've got to jump into midfield. Say you played right of a free. You played right back all your career, bombing up and down, but then you go right of a free. But you're used to certain positions on the pitch and how to defend. I just think it's too confusing for the players. I think it's easier to go 4 at the back and push someone in midfield rather than go with the 5 at the back.
If you played, wouldn't you have to be one of the main creators in this team as well?
So when I did play 3 at the back under Terry Venables or under Glenn Hoddle, me or Stuart Pearce were the right or left centre-backs. But if a team played 1 up against us, we would go to a back 4.
Correct.
We would go to a back 4, so basically Stuart Pearce would tuck in alongside, say, Tony Adams, and I'd go then, but obviously they'd have 2 wide players, so you'd end up basically, I'd shuffle across to right back and be a bit more traditional. You would all, because you don't want 3 at the back against Erling Haaland. So what you see today is that Shaw and Yoro are having to push into midfield to pick up a player in a position that they're not really sure where they are, and then it leaves spaces behind them. So you are asking players to jump in then, because there's only 3v1 at the back, so it isn't ideal at times, but he plays it very differently, Ruben Amorim. It's not even... You never see Shaw going out to play left-back and saying, OK, play Dorgu left-wing for, 20 minutes and play Shaw left-back and play, Yoro and De Ligt in midfield and Mazraoui back to right-back. That would have fit today against Bernardo Silva, Doku and Haaland. But they didn't do that. They don't do that. They do it a different way, where one of the back players goes into midfield.
The record is ugly. I'm talking about Ruben Amorim's Premier League record since coming in, and of course...
You put mine up then.
you played 3 at the back.
It's not far off.
Well, I think your win ratio was actually higher, wasn't it? This is 25% win ratio from 31 Premier League games, with a goal difference of minus 13. Gary sort of alluded to October being a time where we need to see progress. At what point does some serious consideration have to be taken about whether this is working, whether the system is too rigid, whether he needs to change or something else needs to change here?
I don't like talking about managers' job, and I never will. I don't think it's fair. But obviously what he's doing right now is not working. Since his first Premier League game, I think he's got less points than some of the worst teams in the Premier League. And if you're going to be at Man United, it needs to be better than that. We're stating the obvious here. We constantly talk about Man United and where they've been and all that sort of stuff, but he's in man in a job, and at this moment in time, he's not getting it right. And when you talk about managers, we have to adapt as pundits with all the new terminologies and all that sort of thing. He has to adapt as a manager, and right now, he's not adapting, and I don't think the players are receiving the message in the way that they want to implement it on the field.
Will they get there, Roy? If we give Ruben Amorim the season and say, OK, this is another free hit.
It's more hope than belief at this moment in time, because again, we're watching him, we see him week in, week out, and not convinced. But I hope they can prove us wrong. And we're on about the supporters and the media losing kind of belief in this management. My worry is if the players aren't truly behind him in terms of the way they're playing in this system, because the results just haven't been good enough. And, big worry.
Manchester United's best player is Bruno Fernandes, and that is my biggest worry.
Still?
He's Manchester United's best player. He's been incredible for 5, 6, 7 years. His numbers are outstanding and would live in any Manchester United era. But in this system, he either has to play as one of a 2 in midfield, which means he's deep, or he has to play as either like a left-sided forward or a right-sided forward. So that isn't ideal. It reminds me a little bit of when Sebastian Veron came to Manchester United. We were very much a 4-4-2 team, and when Sebastian Veron was very much almost like a 4-3-3 midfield player, where he had like a sitting midfield player with one of the 2 in front, like the 8s that they call it 8s now. That's what Bruno Fernandes is. He's just like he wants someone deep lying behind him, and then one of those two in there that plays with a bit of freedom. And that's a bit of a worry that Bruno Fernandes has started to sort of go missing a little bit. If you think about the Europa League final, and you think about a game like today, he's not at his best, and he is United's best player, and you need to get the best out of him. You said before the game, Roy, if he doesn't play well, United struggle, and it's difficult for him to play well deep without the ball. It's difficult for him to play as a left winger or a right winger, or whatever you want to call those positions that Ruben Amorim plays.
Cunha's absence, is that something that we should be talking
City
about?
had Cherki, Mamouche, and they had others out today. Stones. I am definitely not going down that route and letting United off the hook because of Cunha. I mean, that's just not happening. City had lots of players out.